Gold surged past $3,300 last week, driven by a faltering US dollar and weakening US treasuries, as investors grappled with uncertainty over President Trump's erratic tariff policies. His economic vision, though loosely defined, prioritizes domestic activity, which, as you'd expect, is starting to spur a rush towards US-based gold projects, particularly in Nevada's prolific Walker Lane trend. This region is a hotspot for high-grade deposits. It's starting to draw significant attention as gold's bullish run intensifies. I want to go back in time for a minute and explore the history of the region. The Walker Lane Trend's mining history began with the 1859 discovery of the Comstock Lode, a monumental deposit that triggered a silver and gold rush reshaping the American West. In 1857, brothers Ethan and Hosea Grosh traveled from Pennsylvania with their backgrounds in chemistry and metallurgy to be the first to discover gold and silver ore at the site. Tragically, they died that year, before their discovery was assayed. Then, 2 years later, in 1859, miners Peter O'Reilly and Patrick McLaughlin, while enlarging a spring for placer mining near 6 Mile Canyon, uncovered gold in a crumbly black rock. Then, a Canadian named Henry T.P. Comstock, a charismatic prospector, claimed the land as his own, convincing O'Reilly and McLaughlin to include him and his partner, Emmanuel Penrod, to avoid conflict. Unaware of the claim's true value, Comstock sold his shares for $1,000.
Don't mention that evil place to me. I, Henry T.P. Comstock, who have roamed the four corners of the earth, have sailed every shore and coastline of the seven seas, never want to hear the name of that foul-sounding place again as long as I live.
Miners initially derided the rich blue material, clogging their sluice boxes, unaware that this curious bluish rock was in fact high-grade silver ore, the very stuff that would make the Comstock Lode one of the richest silver deposits in U.S. history, yielding over $350 million by 1882. This find spurred Nevada's 1864 statehood. It also aided the ratification of the 13th Amendment and drove innovations like square-set timbering. This single find produced over 8.5 million ounces of gold and over 200 million ounces of silver, laying the foundation for the region's enduring legacy. Geologically, the trend's complex fault systems and volcanic activity have created ideal conditions for rich gold deposits, fueling exploration for over a century. The Walker Lane Trend's mining legacy is not confined to the past. It thrives in the present with several major operations driving significant gold production. Among the biggest mines is the Round Mountain Mine, operated by Kinross Gold, having yielded over 10 million ounces of gold since its early 20th century beginnings. In 2024, the mine produced over 200,000 gold equivalent ounces. Then we have Core Mining's Rochester Mine, which produced over 4 million ounces of silver and nearly 40,000 ounces of gold last year. And of course, we have SSR Mining's Marigold Mine, which has averaged annual production north of 200,000 ounces of gold in recent years. But there are still plenty of explorers. Take the historic Tonopah district, nestled in the heart of the trend. Active in the early 1900s, the district produced 1.8 million ounces of gold and 174 million ounces of silver, with its legacy etched into the dusty hills. Today, that same ground hums with new life as Andrew Pollard, president and CEO of BlackRock Silver, leads a modern-day hunt for precious metals. BlackRock Silver's flagship Tonopah West project sits smack dab in the middle of this storied region, straddling Nye and Esmeralda counties. A project with a resource estimate just sitting there waiting for silver prices to re-rate. And one of the big stories to keep an eye on within this trend is Anglo Gold Ashanti's Bullfrog Mine. The mining giant is presently awaiting permitting and expects to get that permit and begin production this year. They're hoping to ramp up to peak production of over 100,000 ounces of gold per year. Production at Bullfrog will make satellite deposits, Silicon and Merlin, a lot more important, because they're the next obvious feed for the mill. Between the two of them, they show measured and indicated mineral resources of 3.4 million ounces of gold and an inferred mineral resource of 9.9 million ounces. Anglo Gold Ashanti owns the Silicon and Merlin properties, but Triple Flag Precious Metals just made a play for the bulk of the royalties in those projects, with a $421 million cash and stock offer for Origin royalties. We did a video breaking down this transaction earlier this week. Triple Flag is buying the whole company, but only keeping the 1% royalty that Origin owns on the Silicon property. The rest of Origin's royalties will be put together with $78 million worth of exploration stage royalties that Triple Flag has laying around and spun out into a new company to be led by Origin's current CEO, Paddy Nicol. The new company, Origin Spinco, will have more than a dozen U.S. royalties, all in Nevada. Altius Minerals, a company which I've covered in the past, owns just under 20% of Origin shares and a 1.5% NSR on the Silicon property. So they might be the real winner here. But as to be expected with Brian Dalton, no one is really talking about it. Meanwhile, further down Walker Lane in Arizona is West Point Gold, formerly known as Gold 79. They are grabbing the market's attention with high-grade intersections over significant widths at their gold chain project. West Point has been exploring this property for about a year with some decent results, but they managed to pull off their first serious high-grade hit right when gold popped. The news took the stock to 63 cents the day of the announcement on the highest volume the company had seen in 3 years. West Point last raised about $6 million in November. If they can keep their price above 60 cents for 10 trading days, they will be able to call in 12 million warrants from that financing and put another $4.8 million in their treasury. Okay, so let's wrap it up. It's easy to forget that the U.S. ranks among the world's premier mining jurisdictions, with a robust legal framework and infrastructure that continues to attract global players. President Trump's economic policies, while divisive and unpredictable, have inadvertently bolstered domestic mining. His tariff-heavy approach, aimed at reshaping global trade, has inflated the cost of imported metals, creating a tailwind for U.S.-based producers. Coupled with long-standing tax incentives for domestic miners, these policies have sparked renewed interest in American gold projects, particularly in Nevada's Walker Lane trend, where the convergence of geology and opportunity is impossible to ignore. As gold prices soar, driven by a weakening dollar and global uncertainty, the region's high-grade deposits are going to start to draw significant capital. Companies like West Point Gold, with their high-grade hits at the Gold Chain project, exemplify the potential for new discoveries to capture market attention. Meanwhile, major players like Anglo Gold Ashanti and royalty shops like Triple Flag are doubling down on the region, betting on its ability to deliver substantial returns. This dynamic interplay of exploration, production, and strategic deals underscores the trend's enduring relevance. Looking ahead, the Walker Lane trend is poised to play a pivotal role in America's gold renaissance. Trump's policies, while controversial, have reduced regulatory hurdles, encouraging companies like Barrick Gold to consider relocating their headquarters to the U.S. The region's geological riches, combined with favorable economics and a pro-mining climate, position the Walker Lane trend as a cornerstone of domestic resource development. From historic mines like Round Mountain to emerging projects like Tonopah West and Bullfrog, the Walker Lane is not just a relic of the past, but a beacon for the future, where innovation and ambition continue to unearth wealth from Nevada's dusty hills. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. If you're long any of these names or you want me to get into anything more specific in the region, let me know in the comments section. Guys, we're also in the middle of earnings season, so please check out some of our other content. Also, if you enjoyed this content, please give it a like, give it a share. You know what to do. All right, everybody, thanks for watching.